Program Manager here in Frankfurt. There's our signal. Okay. Joel Wisner in RSC Frankfurt. I'm the ADG Project Program Manager, and really excited to be able to talk to you about the new update to offline check-in, I should say, which is compatible with both eContact and CRM, and adds some really amazing new features to be able to better manage your events. And just, I'll keep it real brief because there's limited time and a lot to talk about. But just a reminder that, part of the ADG and what we do and what we focus on here is in meeting posts' expectations and needs for technology. So that's been the focus of this update and all of our products as well, is to make sure that the most important elements and features and capabilities are what we're prioritizing to put into these products. So things like being able to scan QR codes from devices, things like better statistics to be able to track and manage the status of your guests and how many have checked in and what categories. These are the really enabling new features that I think are going to be a big hit for your events this coming year. So with that, I'll just turn it right over to Mark to talk more about this, and thank you again for participating today.
Hello, good afternoon, good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. I appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedules to learn a little bit about the offline check-in tool. I'm actually excited, as Joel is, to present this because we've been working over the last year to really improve it. We took your feedback after last year's 4th of July. We had the survey. People told us what you would like to see in the application. We've heard from kind of off sources what some folks have been doing personally, what they would like to see. So we really took all that feedback coming from you, and we have applied it to this new version of the application. And we even bumped it up a new version to version 2 because we've made so many changes, and we've changed the structure of it that it is almost a new application, even though it looks very similar. The biggest thing about the change is it's now actually a full application. Let me pull it up actually so you can see my desktop and my screen. The offline check-in application is literally an application you can install. You can see my Windows screen. You can see the first thing I have on the top, and also one of my apps is offline check-in. This application is installable, which means it is also updatable. For an admin, I know keeping your people's versions up to date, you have various versions on various laptops, and to keep them all in sync it's very time consuming. And so for our admins, we wanted to enable some features that make it easier to make sure your application's updating, to make sure that it's easier for your users to be informed when updates are available, so they can say, by the way, there's an update here, could you please click the update and do this for me? And just to make your lives hopefully easier in this regards. So we're actually pretty excited about that. I think it's a pretty big new feature. It's going to also help us manage our updates and even possibly bring the updates out quicker because we can release more intermediate ones without having to wait for larger major release with everything that goes around it. But we can do them possibly throughout the year. It enables a lot for us too. And along that side, we also have a Mac version of this application that is currently in testing. So far, everyone who's tested has given positive results. So we will soon be releasing the Mac version of this application, which is also fully installable and a true Mac application. That's something we're also very excited about. So you'll be able to take it anywhere you go. It'll be in your app menu, in your launcher, your Launchpad, I think is what it's called in Mac. So it'll be with you wherever you go. That's kind of for the structure of the application. For the end user, though, most people want to know what has changed, what is new. And I'm going to start with our server interface and afterwards move to the client interface, because this application, just like last year, separates kind of like our internal check-in server, the part that takes care of the logic, versus the user's kind of interface, the client that you access from your iPads, your iPhones, Android devices, maybe a laptop, to actually do the checking in. So on the server, we've actually added various features to this. It doesn't look so different from the main view. You'll notice there's one item missing from the main screen, which is our logs. The logs have ended up moving to its own page so we can do more with it. Because we took a look at it, what is going to be most important. When the first is configuration, uploading an event, making sure your clients can access it, deciding what type of barcodes you're going to be using for this event or which ones were sent out with the invitations. And the next part was what happens during the check-in, the logging, who's checking in when, are they a VIP, do I need to call them, things like that. So we've separated out a lot of the views to make it more task specific so you can concentrate on what needs to be done at that moment. So the biggest change you've probably noticed on the server interface is our barcode type. We have now included a QR and 1D barcode scanning into the application, which means with your client, with your iPhone, iPads, you can take a picture of a barcode and it will hopefully parse and you will get the number in for checking in. But to make things quicker because of performance reasons and because basically parsing a barcode is a heavy operation, we have split out the logic into either you have a QR code or you have a flat 1D barcode. This makes it less difficult for the clients, your Android devices, your iPhones, to actually do the work of parsing these codes, which is why on the server you have to select what type of code did you use the invitation with. And it was really meant to make sure your check-in goes as quick as possible. Could we have included them all into one big giant search and search for 15 different barcodes? Yes, we could have, but therefore each barcode check would have been slightly slower. And that slightly slower over your event probably would have added up. So we decided for performance over full coverage. So we have our barcode types. We have our log page, which is in the navigation at the top. The logs are now able to be searchable. And of course, I don't have any logs in here. I will come back and show you to these after I've done a couple test check-ins. But the server logs have their own page now. You can export them. They are fully searchable, which means once people start checking in, if you're looking for when did Smith log in or when did Doe, you can now search for Smith and find that record and find out when that person checked in. You'll also see when the VIPs are, etc. You'll also see here on the side, we have an alerts. We'll have a pop-up alert appear here for all You will see we have on our alerts, excuse us, somebody muted the phone. We have our alerts, which you'll see are when VIPs and blacklisted appear. A notice will appear until you actually click it away. So you'll know to be alerted that somebody you may want to pay attention to, give them a call, is now at your event. I know a lot of posts have a VIP service at their events to have the ambassador greet them, to have other actions taken, maybe to be escorted directly to a special greeting tent with special champagne. And so we have the ability now to see in the interface when one of these VIPs check in. It will also show you blacklisted, people who are not supposed to attend the event. So if by chance somebody tries to attend that shouldn't, you'll also get that warning. The next feature we've added to our server interface are the statistics. These are going to be, I think, very exciting for you because it's going to track in 5-minute blocks when your check-ins happen. So over the course of your event, you will see when the high points are, when the low points are, and you can use these statistics moving forward in the future. We have talked with posts who have been tracking these by themselves internally to basically figure out when are our peak check-in times? When do we have to have more people at our check-in points? When do we need to have the caterer get those 5 extra bottles of wine out there because they have an influx of people coming in? Because an event is an organized, almost a living thing. People are eating, people are meeting, people are moving around, and basically you need to make sure you have the catering taken care of, that you have everything is prepared. And so this will help you. When you see that you're getting a large influx of people getting checked in, you may want to let your caterer know that in 10 minutes, the buffet is going to get hit hard. Just a small usage of how you can do these. And at the very end, it'll also let you know to plan for future events. When do you need to stock up your check-ins? Can you maybe only have 2 check-in points in the first half an hour, and after an hour, you need to bump it up to 4? These are things you could think about and consider. We also have our participant information, which will show you who checked in, when. It'll let you know out of the VIPs. For example, on the right-hand side, it'll show you out of your 41 VIPs in this event, how many have checked in, so you know if they've arrived or not. And as people check in, all of this information will get updated. And you can hide and show this information. If you don't care that 676 are invited, you just care about who's currently actually arrived, you can click on the column headers in the bottom and also remove that information. So this is also something you can use live during your event to track your current check-ins, etc. The last item we added is an about. Since this is a true application, you can have a version number, you can see about it, and you can even see we have our update section. We have a really great guide online about how to manage the updates for this application. Everything I'm telling you today can also be found in our Help Center online, so it's a great reference for you. We'll be sharing it later. But here you'll be able to see when updates are available, when they're not. And if you have an internet connection, it will be checking that. So this is the new server interface. We'll be taking questions about it later, but hopefully it's very understandable how it works and functions. It's pretty straightforward, we hope. So I can move to the client. The client itself looks very similar to last year. The main differences you will see is we have some QR buttons in this case. And you will see that we're able, in this case, since I'm using a laptop, my camera can't open because it doesn't support that. But if you're on an iPhone, you would be able to click this button and your camera would start. And then you could take a picture of a barcode. And the application is very connected, actually. I'm going to just show you side by side what I mean. If you pay attention to our buttons on the check-in screen, you can see if I switch the barcode types, the client will also change the indicator about what type of barcode is scanning. So you as a user will know what type of barcodes to expect, or maybe if the wrong one is set. It's also good to know if you're taking a picture of a barcode and it's not giving any results. Maybe you have the wrong one selected and you need to go back to the server and actually select the new one. So this is a small feature that will hopefully help you to make sure you're scanning the right types of barcodes. And in that regards, we've also updated the settings for it. So if we're looking at our settings menu, we've tried to minimize and clean them up a bit. We've added some additional features. One of the additional features we've added also has to deal with the barcode scanning. I'll get to the set focus in a minute. Is basically on your barcode, every client can decide if they want to see it or not. Maybe some people don't want to use the QR code, that button's just getting in the way, they're accidentally pushing it. It's possible to display or to hide the camera button. So if I disable the camera button for my client, you can see on my interface the button is gone. If I go back enable it and say, well, I'm a right-handed person and I use my right thumb for checking in. You can also change the alignment of it, for in this example, right. And you can see my button at the bottom is now on the right-hand side. This is kind of intended for mobile devices when you're holding it one-handed, trying to do a check-in. Maybe you're looking at somebody's invitation. We're trying to make an ease of use so you can configure how these buttons are placed for your usage per device. So it means what you change here is not going to change your neighbor's client. It's really just your setting. So everyone can set that themselves. And another great feature we've added to also help with mobile check-in is the search box focus. For those who used the application last year, you'll know every time you clicked check-in on a record, your cursor, your mouse, would automatically focus on the search box that's currently highlighted right now, which means that every time, if you're on a laptop, it works great because you type in a name, you hit return, you put somebody in, you can start typing in the next name. And usually the screens are large enough where you don't need to scroll that much for 2 or 3 people who appear on screen. But for a mobile device, this is a big difference because you have smaller screens, and every time that you check someone in and it jumps back to the top, you oftentimes, for guests especially, or participants with a guest, you had to scroll all the way back down again to find the guest. We realized this wasn't as friendly as it could be, so we've enabled this option. And I can actually give you a slight demonstration. We have, for example, an iPhone. And if I search for a name, you can see there's lots of scrolling to do. And if I were to check somebody in, it jumps to the top of the screen and I can't see, oh, did that person have a guest or did that person get checked in? But if I go to my settings and disable my search box, and I scroll back down to my record, I could say check-in, and now the screen stays in place, which means if you're using a mobile device and you would like to be able to check multiple people in, multiple guests, you don't have the scrolling that we had last year. We hope this will actually bring a great improvement and actually increase your speed of checking in for both adding additional guests and for just increasing your workflow. So this is a new feature we've added for the settings. We hope you make use of it and remember that it's there because it'll be very useful for your mobile checking in. Going back to the main check-in, just so we can use up the screen real estate better, we can see here that the check-in has not changed too much. We've added some ease of use to it with the search as you type. So if I type in A and wait a half a second, it's automatically going to start searching for me. The autocomplete is something we implemented to make sure you have to remove your hands from the keyboards less, so you don't have to do, so you can concentrate on checking in and not on typing and hitting enter. We have added a search feature, just like in eContact and also as in CMD. We can use the comma as a separator between first name and last name. We had feedback from last year from posts that have people with very similar names. And oftentimes there's so many that are even invited to the events that our 25-person limit on the display was actually not enough to display these duplicate type person names. And to make it easier, we've implemented this search feature. So you can do, for example, A, S and find exactly Stuart Abbott, or A, for Miss Annetta. This will hopefully make your searches also quicker if you're doing it by hand and not using barcodes so that you can find the people you want. And if your country's with multiple people with similar names, this will hopefully come in very, very handy and also make sure you find the people you want to check in. For those with sharp eyes, you may have also noticed that there's a new clear button. So if you would like to clear and start over from your typing, you're now able to do that also. It's just a very small thing, but I've actually found even in my development and testing and quality control. I use this actually more than I expected to. Other than that, we've updated a little bit of the UI, changed some of the location of items, people coming in, expected check-ins, etc. We've tried to make sure that you're aware of everything that's going on with your check-in. And we've also added a new field called a telephone number. Another feedback we received from posts was if I have a VIP coming in or I need to contact. Just a real quick question. We've seen in the chat that somebody says you're losing me. I hope everyone can hear me okay. If not, please let us know in the chat. And we have added our telephone feature, which means that in case you need to contact one of your customers who are being checked in, the telephone number, if it's in the e-contact record, will also be displayed here. This was oftentimes needed for VIPs who needed to be contacted and said, by the way, the ambassador is coming to meet you, or would you please move towards tent X to do your VIP champagne greeting, etc. And this is just an example of our VIP. We haven't changed much from the check-in process. We still have our add guest feature, so you can add a one-time guest on the fly. This is also what we had last year. Nothing new has changed here. So this is a very standard function that hopefully you already know. You'll see that Miss Jan is here. And that's kind of our check-in interface. We have worked a lot to improve the performance of it. We've rewritten, I would say, a good 3/4 of the logic behind how the clients are communicating with our server, how they're communicating amongst themselves. And we've reduced some bottlenecks that were found by especially the posts with really, really large check-in events. We're talking 20 devices plus. They found some bottlenecks that we hadn't experienced before. And so we've fixed a lot of those items, and the application is now more robust than ever. We've really put it through the ringers to make sure that it's as solid for you as possible. And that's our client. I want to quickly go back to our server interface, just so I can show you kind of how the logs are looking. I told you that we had our alerts for VIPs and for our blacklisted. If you look at the alerts, you'll see that our VIP was checked in a minute ago, while our blacklisted was roughly 6 minutes. These alerts will actually tell you and update them every couple seconds and kind of give you an update when they happened. So these times will continue to update the longer you don't react to them. Because maybe you walk away from your laptop for a second, you come back and you say, oops, a VIP checked in. You can see that it was 2 minutes ago or 10 minutes ago. So you're aware of when it took place. And you can also probably notice that our logs are looking slightly cleaner compared to last year's. They're more structured, the dates are more prominent, the VIPs and blacklisted are more prominent. A new guest is more prominent when they are added. And as I mentioned before, everything is searchable. So if I knew that Noel had checked in, if I type in Noel, I will get all those records with that name in it. And it's searching for both name and for note. Or if I want to just see which VIPs checked in, I can type in VIP and get all my VIPs. It's all searchable. And the export itself, if I were to export this log, you would actually be able to see that under this log itself, it's a website. It looks, for the most part, similar to that which you've seen within the eContact offline check-in. And I can also do my searches here, just like I can within the server application. So after an event, you'd like to take your logs with you, and you would like to be able to kind of go through them. You have questions about what happened at your event. you'll be able to go through your logs and figure out what happened and when. All right, that's actually the end of the presentation. That's what we've done. We've added a lot to it. I highly recommend going to our help center to view the new data. I have it here on screen. We've added a brand new offline check-in segment under our help center with all of our downloads, our installation and access, how to update, our user guide for the server, which is brand new. We've updated the client guide, and we've also extracted our release notes into various releases. So I highly recommend going and visiting our site, getting acquainted with it. And so now it's 30 past the hour, and we'd like to open up for any Q&As before we close up the session. So I'll be looking at the chat and seeing what is coming in.
Yeah, just to repeat that, we'll take any questions over chat, or if you're dialed in and have a way to communicate with us by voice, great, feel free to speak up.
And while we're waiting for questions, I just really want to quickly show you how, for those who haven't maybe gone through this process before, about actually moving data between eContacts and the offline check-in. For those using CRM, it's a slightly different process. They have their own guide on this. But if you're in an event, in the event, you will have an offline check-in menu item. And literally, it's as easy as generating a file. This file you generate will then, you can save to your IronKey or put it into your FAN account, put it somewhere that you can access it from your offline check-in device. And once that file is generated, you would then import that into the offline check-in using the uploading event option if none existed. And once that event is there, you can always export the event from the offline check-in and bring it back to eContact where you can upload and sync. It's a very straightforward process, and this is also covered in our help center. So do we have any questions coming in? I don't hear any from the audio. I don't see any in the chat window.
No.
So we'll give you another minute to get in contact with us. And if not, we'll close up the webinar, and thank you for your time.
Yeah, and keep in mind, we want to know how this works, especially as you use for, trial runs and your actual events. Just like in years past, keep sending the feedback back so that we can keep improving this functionally, technology-wise, whatever you're actually doing at your events, and we can build in as the technology support. That's our job. That's what we want to do for you. So keep in contact with us. All right.
All right.
I guess we're done.
Cool. Hey, thanks everybody.
Thank you everybody. And